Today's episode is brought to you by this water bottle. Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Canton Little, and today I'm launching a new mini-series called Should You Read? The mini-series where I answer the question, should you read a specific author, novel, book, manga, poem, or whatever else you throw at me? Kicking off this brand new mini-series, I'm going to be answering the question, should you read Tolstoy's War and Peace? Let's get right into it. War and Peace is one of the most celebrated works in Western literature. Known for its difficulty and epic grand narrative, War and Peace offers insight on an unparalleled level. War and Peace is written by Leo Tolstoy, and it is a sprawling epic that covers a vast range of themes and historical events. We'll explore the reasons why you should read War and Peace, including its historical significance and its literary merit. War and Peace has a significant historical importance. It is set during the time of the Napoleonic Wars. The story kicks off in 1805 and ends around the 1820s. There are two epilogues. The first epilogue wraps up the story of the characters, and the second epilogue is Tolstoy's thesis on how history is written and if history is made by great men. The interesting thing about War and Peace is that it offers a rich depiction of Russian society during this time period and provides insight into the political and social climate of the early 19th century. Additionally, it explores themes of war and peace, power and politics, and the struggle of the individual against larger historical forces such as Napoleon and General Kutuzov. War and Peace provides a unique perspective on the Napoleonic Wars as it is told from the Russian point of view. Now, traditionally, when we are talking about the Napoleonic Wars, we see the heroic struggle between Great Britain and France, with little to no input on the Russians and the Prussians. This is not how history is told. Instead, War and Peace portrays the consequences of war for ordinary people and highlights the human cost of conflict. And it shows this using Russian characters, and only really using Russian characters. There are very few characters who are not Russian in this grand narrative. War and Peace also sheds light on the significance of family, relationships, and interpersonal bonds during times of war. It gives us readers a deep understanding of the emotional and psychological toll that conflict takes on individuals and communities. This was by far probably the most compelling aspect of War and Peace. Reading it, there are times where you will be in parties, and then there will be times where you're on battlefields with your characters, and it feels as if you are there with them. It is a very compelling aspect of Tolstoy's writing. Furthermore, War and Peace, has a lasting impact on Russian literature and culture. Its portrayal of Russian society and its themes of love, war, and human nature have influenced countless writers and artists. There are plenty of writers who have considered War and Peace to be the greatest thing ever written. I certainly consider it one of the best works I have read so far. I started reading War and Peace in January because I'm in a book club, and I finished it around mid-March, which is a very impressive reading pace, but I will get into that later. This epic grand narrative remains a testament to the power of literature and captures the complexities of the human experience and provides insights into historical events and cultural movements. War and Peace is widely regarded as one of the greatest literary works in history. Tolstoy's masterful storytelling and beautiful prose have earned the novel a place in the Western canon. Now, the Western canon is comprised of different epics, novels, poems, short stories, etc. Plays by Shakespeare, for example, are part of the Western canon, and it has contributed overall to the development of Western art and the Western consciousness. Peace has a very complex narrative structure. It has multiple different characters and multiple interweaving plot lines, and this is really a good testament to Tolstoy's skill as a writer and a historian. Arguably one of the most impressive achievements of War and Peace is its nuanced and realistic portrayal of human nature. Tolstoy's characters are complex and multifaceted. All have their own strengths, their own weaknesses, and their own contradictions. And the novel and War and Peace explores themes of love, death, religion, morality, and it challenges us to grapple with some of the deepest questions of the human experience. There are very few works that can challenge us to this extent, and I certainly grappled with it whenever I was reading. Now, the beautiful thing about reading War and Peace, or really any work of literature, is that even though you will be given some of these answers, you are given perspectives by authors, by people who have lived before us, and it's contributing to a conversation that will last until the end of our species. War and Peace is also known for its vivid and evocative descriptions of the natural world, which serve to deepen the emotional resonance of the story and to serve as an extension of the characters. Tolstoy uses a lot of imagery and a lot of symbolism, which is highly effective, and it adds a lot of meaning and depth to the overall narrative. Withstood stood the test of time, and Tolstoy's writing transcends time and space. And this has been recognized by a lot of readers and law scholars, which is why War and Peace is considered one of the most difficult works to read. It's also considered one of the greatest works to read. Now, War and Peace is a bit of a difficult read. It's not as difficult as you might think. There are about 365 chapters, and so if you wanted to read War and Peace, it would only take you a chapter a day, and you can finish it in a whole year. If you were like me, I finished the entire book in about 3 months, and even then, it was still a lot to unpack, but it was very much well worth it. Let's get on to the characters. War and Peace is notable for its rich and complex character development. Tolstoy's characters, like I said earlier, are multidimensional. They all have their own unique motivations, their fears, their own desires. In this narrative, we explore the inner lives of the characters. We delve deep into their emotions and thought processes, and we get to understand that they are human, and you start to feel empathy for some. There are some characters in the beginning who you might despise, and by the end of the story, you might absolutely love them, and vice versa. One of the most significant examples of character development are really the three main characters of War and Peace, which is Pierre, Natasha Rostova, and Prince Andrei. These are really the three main characters that we should be concerned with. There are a bunch of side characters and such, but these are the three main characters. Pierre is who I would consider probably the main protagonist of the story, and honestly, he and Andrei were the two characters that I loved the most throughout the entire grand narrative. Pierre is a character whom I relate to on a deeper level than Andrei, but Andrei is a character that I can understand why he is the way he is. Natasha is a character who you get annoyed with occasionally, but you end up growing to either love her or you just resent her even more. It just really... I'm not going to give any spoilers on these characters, but I will say Pierre was by far the most intriguing character. Now, this development of characters is not only limited to just the three main characters I mentioned, but there are also a bunch of side characters who also get some development. And we also get to see not only the positive changes that these characters undergo, but we also get to see the negative aspects. Like I mentioned earlier, we get to see how they contradict themselves. We get to see how they grow. During each part, each volume of War and Peace, there's 3 volumes and there's a handful of parts and such. Now, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, Volume 1, Part 1 starts off in 1805 and the story ends at Epilogue 1 in the 1820s. So you get to see how these characters grow and develop and reflect on their development. And it's a very deep sociological kind of understanding of these characters and the development of the way that they have grown and the development of how we also contradict ourselves and how we grow. War and Peace explores a wide range of themes that are intricately woven into its complex plot lines and characters. One of the most prominent themes in War and Peace is the juxtaposition of war and peace. War is a constant presence throughout the story. However, War and Peace also explores the importance of peace, both on a personal and societal level. War and Peace shows the devastating effects of war on individuals, on families, communities, on really countries, and it emphasizes the need for peace and reconciliation, and I believe that is ultimately what Tolstoy was aiming at. Tolstoy also mentions power and politics, and we get to see the struggle of power and influence within the aristocracy and how political machinations can have far-reaching consequences for individuals and society. We get to see this summarized in the quote, "Kings are the slaves of history." War and Peace also explores the relationship between power and morality. This challenges readers to consider the ethical implications of political actions and decisions. Love and relationships are also central themes of War and Peace. War and Peace portrays a wide range of romantic relationships, from passionate love to affairs to arranged marriages and personal desires, and shows how these relationships can be shaped by social conventions, by personal desires, and by historical events. War and Peace also explores the nuances of familial relationships and how these relationships can both be a source of support and a source of conflict. Additionally, War and Peace discusses the individual struggle against larger historical forces such as Napoleon and Kutuzov, and how great men can influence history. And we also get to see the moral struggles between characters and themes of morality, religion, human experience, good and evil, and asking the question, is there a God? Why is there evil in the world? And ultimately, love. War and Peace is one of the books that you should read. Ultimately, War and Peace was a book that I greatly enjoyed. I have read it on 3 different platforms. I've read it on the physical paperback edition. I have read it on a Kindle, and I've also read it on a very fancy 3-volume set. So War War and Peace is definitely a book that you should read, and I will provide nuances as to why you should read. You should read it simply because it is one of the greatest works written. You should also read it because it explores themes of morality, themes of love, themes of historical importance, themes of cultural importance, and you get to grapple with those questions. You get to grapple with morality. You get to grapple with relationships. You get to empathize with characters and develop a relationship with them. They ultimately begin to feel like they're real people. You should read War and Peace if, and I will say if, you want a challenge. You should read War and Peace if you want to experience a compelling, grand, epic narrative. And you should read War and Peace if you want to better understand Russian history and Russian culture. And you should read War and Peace. Thank you guys for watching this episode. If you would like to see more content like this, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you guys for watching. And remember to always read deeply. Bye-bye.